Welcome. My name is Reverend Maria Arvanitidis. Howdy. This is a course in metaphysical spirituality and my book named after my ministry, TheSovereignLight. This is a audiovisual version of the book, and this today is 333 excerpt pages from 87 to 89, lesson 290. And won't you join me here today? Thank you.
Okay.
From a biological construct to artificial, everything has consciousness. It is true that the self is in a very malleable field and can apply different rules to the game at any given moment, and by choice we can now become the magicians. As you know, we are already almost finished within this book, and what have we learned? What am I and what is addiction? Pages 787. And with that said, let's begin this affirmation. Take a few deep breaths in and out. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. Artificially reconstructed as intelligence, the more organized the system of the form, the more the creative spark of self has placed intention, and as such will reflect its resonance to hold its essence as this consciousness. Today, notice the experience of crying. Notice how the spirit descends into the physical containment that is this physical body. In the same way that spirit leaves its body, the built-up pressure from the soul is what the self can feel when it is touched by spirit as compassion. From the misty grayish blue translucent plasma of the soul, the spirit will take away the plasmic, watery, sultry substance of impression with it, as discussed before. So as we're nearing near to this book, I'd like to take the other excerpt remaining from page 787 and so after this is how it can be touched. And from the impact to release some of the density of shedding of the tears. This is the last paragraph of page 787, this excerpt. So the translucent plasma is this canvas that illusion will and impresses and does impress upon it to thicken the membrane of separation and disconnect. The place where the space is organized into a linear prosperity that marks within fixed boundaries and for each recorded moment of its progression towards its spiritual and energetic abundance. So, blessed is the self that can express the level of its spirit into density with tears and cry at will from feeling this here connection. We're like nearing at the end of this, but again, let's continue on to page 788. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. Linear perspective is not real and can be manipulated with projection into that of parallel reality, shifting for the self to be anywhere it can possibly conceive, to conceptualize. And just as long as the state of being is in resonance to it, how long the self was brought into, and as long as it was brought into this thing called creation, simply to remember how long ago the precursor to all the levels of its manifested reality, and that as potentially rest underneath the physical. The metaphysical is this radiance that holds the mind as energy and in harmony to correspond with this, its field, known as its universe. This metaphysical reality of the self is truly not reliant on the physical body to exist as consciousness. However, it is helpful to become spiritually aware within the body that it holds, to vessel it around. In the adjusting to the relevance within the physical body, the self will slip into the darkness of the soul, and where it will first come to witness emptiness, the void, and like any other shock, to fill its system with, by grasping from the outside at a cellular level, the self can perhaps find the trade-off from its addiction, find the life force from within, and feel it merging with a soul of spirit. And breathe that in for a moment. This wisdom comes from a place of, compassion, really. Page 789. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. The intensity of consciousness that has evolved into the self to come together organized with this organization, with organized systems. The self is biologically structured in this way that it may come to be aware of itself, and the greatest of achievements that it could ever hold. The unaware self shares its experience in seeking out from its surroundings, its awareness of itself. This searching can overwhelm. The circuitry of its surroundings and the uncomfortable shock of having to fit in as a dependent and unworthy. Today, rather, the feeling of its place to hold as in the highest status ever known to creation and unfamiliar by any other in this way that yet is to be discovered. Practice then the surrounding and the savoring of every high and low the self will feel as overwhelmed to take all the situations that will show the self its center. Learn from where the self is guided to integrate into alignment. The purpose is to adjust to the darkness, and in the way the light is found, embrace source with love and feel the void of separation from thyself. This search can overwhelm the circuitry and its brilliance. And I will leave you with today's affirmation. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself. I can only have compassion when I know myself.